play, outlet Walker. He finds a trailer. Oh! With the right hand, his foot feeling good right now.
Oh, and a big-time poster dunk for Malik Hall.
Walker, they got something going here. Hall.
Hall is the right guy. Hall is the guy.
As Hall driving. Wham! With the right hand.
In the Hall against Rabracha defensively. Hall fading away and buries it.
But on this end, though, Michigan State's got to make it.
Hall spinning, shaking.
Hall, catch and shoot.
On target. A turnover on the pass. Hall. That's it home.
Welcome back to Spiro Avenue. It's fun watching Malik Hall highlights because he's such a versatile guy. You're seeing thunder dunks, turnaround jumpers, three-pointers from the corner. That guy kind of does everything. He even makes appearances on the Spiro Avenue show, man. Welcome for the first time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You've been one of my favorites for a long time. I have got the baton. I have gone to bat for you repeatedly. Luckily, most people love you anyway, so I don't really need to defend you much. But when those people do pop up, like I'm whack-a-moling them. So I'm a huge fan of yours and have been since you got to Michigan State. And it's just great to have you here and great to have you coming back for one more year. So I think that is a good place for us to start. This is the glorious return of Malik Hall to campus. I think there were, for the most part, a general sense of optimism about your return. You just never know. I've been surprised 1,000 times before. Just tell me, why are you back coming in this next year? Why did you come back for one more year?
I definitely came back because obviously I've grown like a family here, not only with the coaching staff, with my teammates, with just numerous amounts of people that I've met and come into contact with. It's just been a great experience. I've enjoyed every part about it. So I think adding that to, just wanting to have a good last year, be completely healthy, be able to put my best foot forward going into the next step of my life, I think was kind of how I wanted to end. I didn't think last year was that for me. So I wanted to come back and hopefully win the national championship and go all the way.
And that's kind of the buzz, man. And look, we've been there before where we're sitting here, coming into the summer, going into the season even. And, it's preseason number 2, preseason number 4, you're in that discussion. And, we haven't seen that, though, the last couple of years. Michigan State unranked in the preseason the prior 2 years, which is really uncommon to have back-to-back like that. We all know it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme, but there is something to be said for sort of the energy, enthusiasm, and where people's minds are with the program. Those polls right now are not out. But I was just looking at a couple of those media outlets that do them. ESPN's obviously unofficial ranking has you guys preseason number 4. CBS has you number 5. Sports Illustrated had you in one article at number 3.
Yeah.
Consensus top 5 as high as 3.
Yeah.
I think John Rothstein had you at 2 maybe. You guys are pretty hyped right now. Having been in the last couple of years in those situations where you're unranked, is there a different sort of energy feel to coming in as an unranked team or under the radar versus what you're seeing in the early stages of this offseason?
I think there can be a difference. Coach does a really great job dealing with that difference, I think. My first year here, came back, we were number 1, had Cassius coming back, had X coming back. So I kind of understand, I've been through the highs and I've been through kind of the middle ground. So I'd say I think Coach just really does a great job with dealing kind of with the difference. He just makes sure we're ready to go, whether we're number 1 or we're number 300 something, So I think either way it goes, I think we'll be ready no matter what.
So you see a little bit of a difference in him in the two situations. Is he trying to pump you up a little bit if you're an underdog and knock you down a peg, when you're more in this situation as a heralded team? Is there a noticeable difference in what he does and how he handles those situations?
I don't think there's a noticeable difference. And if I had all the answers, I'd probably be Thomas. But I mean, I think he definitely does try and keep you humble. Obviously, if you're at a high ranking, I think that's just anything and anyone though. Like, you know, you don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low. So he just always keeps us kind of even keel and makes sure that we're hungry and we want to be better ourselves. So that way we're not focusing on the outside things.
When I had AJ Hogard and Tyson Walker on, I asked them, like, hey, do you guys talk about, this was right on the eve of the Big Ten tournament. I said, do you guys talk about Big Ten titles and going to the Final Four? And, like, do you guys sort of express that? We all know that's the goal. It's unspoken. But is that something you say out loud? They both seem to say, like, yeah, that's an openly embraced thing. Michigan State embraces Final Four U and all that. Is that something you would agree with? Like that?
100%.
You guys, so you guys are talking about that, like, in the walls.
100%. I think there's like, you could go, the first step is like, does the coaching staff talk about it? Like, yeah, they do. They talk about it all the time. It's one of the things that coach talks about. Probably one of the first things I heard coming in, like, we're here to get to Final Fours and win national championships. Like, that's your goal. If you're not meeting that goal, like, we're going to get better and we're going to go get that goal. So obviously it's something you talk about with the coaching staff. And then, I mean, even just the team, like in our locker room, like we talk about it after seasons. We talk about it after practices. We talk about it after games. Like, hey, like, if we really get this thing right, like, we could be one of the best teams in the country, if not the best at all times. So
I mean, obviously, to a large extent, you know Tom Izzo more than I do. There's a wide gap there. But I do have, aside from my 9 unreturned invitations for him to join the show, I do have some friendship sort of in his ether. And there seems to be a consensus from those that do know him, that are close to him, that he won't necessarily admit it, but that second national title that has eluded him, and we've had some close calls along the way, really sort of gnaws at him. That Tom Izzo's a guy that really does care more than he even lets on about his legacy. Do you have any take on that? Like, do you think he feels sort of the pressure building to get that second national title? Do you think he cares as much as his friends seem to think?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So you think he's more just kind of day to day?
I don't think so at all. And I'll say, because I think in this life, there can only really be like one thing that you care about the most. And I think he really cares about other people the most, more than like things for himself. Like, you name it, he's probably done it in the game of basketball. He's probably experienced it. Like, he has a certain experience that like nobody can really understand or like put a value on. You can't really like put your finger on it. So I think just like with that, he just like, he cares and he gives more to other people and tries to make other people better, because he's already done so many things. Well, I'm not saying he doesn't want to win a second one, because obviously that's at the forefront of his mind and that's something that he focuses on. But I think it's not something that like every night he's going to sleep like, this is what my goal is. I think his goal is more so just, you know, making the guys on our team better and making sure that the coaching staff is better and our families are good, things like that. I
mean, maybe he doesn't go to sleep thinking about the second national title, but I do. So I will ruminate enough for the both of us, because I have gone to bed every night for about 20 years looking at the ceiling, wondering if Tom Izzo will finally get that second one. I want it for him more than I think he does, or anybody. Maybe his family wants it a little more. But yeah, so I'll worry enough for the both of us. So I think it's in terms of chasing that goal, Final Fours, Big Ten titles, the elusive second national title for Izzo. I don't think there's going to be anybody out there that says you being back doesn't increase the likelihood of any and all those things occurring. One in particular, though, that was really catching my eye was Graham Couch. I'm sure you've run into Graham on the beat, Lansing State Journal. When you announced that you were returning, he had an interesting take, and it was sort of an outlier opinion, I think. I think this was sort of not on an island, but not the common majority. This is Graham Couch. Quote, Malik Hall's return is more important for MSU than having Tyson Walker back. Next season, Spartans need what Hall can give them even more than Walker. He is the adult in the room, versatile and experienced. Malik Hall provides so much both offensively and defensively. He is not a depth piece on this talent-packed roster. He's an essential one. That's Graham Couch. So Graham Couch's take is you might swing the national title. Malik Hall's return might swing Tom Izzo getting number 2 versus not. Do you feel a sense of, not that winning the title's on you, but a sense of real heavy importance coming into a fifth-year senior situation with a really talented team? Does it create a burden on you to be the leader that you've been thus far?
I don't think it's a burden at all. It's opportunity. I'm in a situation that I always dreamed about being in, so I can't take anything as a burden. And I think really, like, even words like that are just something that I just take value in and I appreciate, because I've come a long way to get to the point where I'm at. And even though I don't think myself, like, I'll be the person to sway the title, like, I don't think that way. I think it's obviously a team effort, but I think I definitely can have importance. And I think as a fifth-year guy who's been in the program, just knows his way around things, understands the flows of the season, I think that'll be very important, especially with the talented young guys we got coming in and the core we got coming back.
I got to sneak the question in, because if I don't ask, people are going to kill me, man. Like, how are you feeling? Like, your health was such a people. I'm praying. Like, people are offering their limbs. Like, I would give Malik Hall. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not making that up.
No,
I'm not making that.
Crazy ones.
People are like, I will give Malik Hall my ankle. I will give any limb or joint you need. Like, you said you wanted to return, have a healthy season. I think you've had some issues earlier in your career, injury-wise, too. Like, how are you right now, health-wise?
Right now, I'm doing better. So I actually had surgery after the off-season, during the off-season, and I'm about 7 weeks, like, post-operation. So I just got out the walking boot. We're doing rehab every day. I'm feeling a lot better than I did before. I'm especially very excited just because last year I thought I was doing better towards the end of last year, and I found out when after the surgery the doctor said it was only like 50 to 60% healthy. So, like, even to know what I was doing towards the end of the season on like 50 or 60% healthy bone, like, I'm just excited to get back out there and leave it all out there.
I think your health situation last year, I have to think about it, but like, in terms of an off-court thing, was the most talked about thing, at least like in the Twitter space. It was like, because the data is so clear. Like, the team's better when you're there. The record's a lot better. The efficiency goes up. The defense gets better. Like, you just sort of rise all the ships. Like, that's sort of your effect, and that's been demonstrated over and over again. I don't know if you saw, like, you were the source of some crazy rumors, like, in regards to your injuries. Nothing salacious, so don't panic over there. But, like, just what was going on, the extent of it, how bad it was. Mm-hmm. So, like, Ben, if you could throw up the one Hag tweet. So this is from Doug Hag, and I don't think Hag's his full last name, but whatever. This is from mid-January. Quote, "Do not expect to see Malik Hall the remainder of the season. His injury is that bad, comparable to Josh Langford's." Now, Josh Langford is a scary term for anybody because it was basically a career-ending injury for him. He tried to come back, never did. And you ended up, as we note there, you returned 10 days after this report, 11 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. You had a really efficient game, your usual solid defensive effort. I mean, I remember that game and how well you played, and I was shocked how good you looked, honestly, just from a conditioning standpoint, off the bench, but still like 25, 26 minutes. It's not to pick on Mr. Hag, but like the reason I'm bringing him up, there was that kind of rumor out there that like this is a catastrophic thing. You're doing better now. Was there a point where you or anyone in your circle thought, "Oh shit, we're in trouble," and then it kind of turned?
So there's definitely truth to that. There was a point in the season. It was after the Illinois game when I got pulled for like the last couple minutes of the game, and I missed like that stretch. I went and I got another scan of my foot, and we thought it was worse on the scan. And then so there was like for like a period of like maybe like 12 to like 20 hours where I thought I was done for the rest of the season. But after like we got another scan and they looked at it like differently and whatever doctors do, and then they were like, "Oh, you're all good." So there was a little glitch in the system there for sure, but.
Oh, a glitch in East Lansing. It can happen in more places in Ann Arbor. Who knew? Yeah. So Hag had a little meat on the bone. I don't know if that timing lined up with what you were saying, but yeah. So glitches on both campuses. It's good to know that we're not immune from the glitches, and I think yours may have been a little more legit. But, yeah. So I mean, bottom line is your prognosis looks good for this upcoming season.
Yes,
you got a
sir.
long way to go.
Yes,
You
sir.
feel good. Doc's
Yeah.
like where you're at.
Yeah, I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, well, so am I. I mean, you've been honestly one of my favorite players of the last 10, 15 years, and for all the reasons people say, just your versatility. Like, your highlight tape is just a joy to look at.
I appreciate that.
I mean,
Thank
you know, I'm not going to, like, isolate any guys, but even some of the best players that ever played here, number 5, Cassius, incredible. I mean, one of the best 10 players ever at this program.
Unbelievable.
But there's no dunking on that highlight tape.
There's no dunks.
It's
but
herky-jerky old man game.
there's some ankles in there, though, for sure.
There's some good stuff.
No, yeah, there's some great stuff in there.
The platter, though, is a little more diverse in your case. It just is. There's just more stuff. You're just,
I
sorry,
hear what
Cassius.
you're
You're a better
saying. No, I hear what
athlete.
you- I hear what
It
you're saying.
just is what it is. You can just do a lot of stuff, and there's not many guys, any major program in the country, that are great shooters, which you've seen. I mean, you jumped up into the 40s. I think maybe dropped below, like right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You were playing hurt, but incredible shooting improvements there, and obviously you always had the athleticism and your turnaround game, and you just bring so much. And I kind of agree with Graham. I wouldn't even make it about like, oh, more so than Tyson. I think it's kind of like, who cares? I mean, it's you guys bring.
Me and him don't.
I know Tyson doesn't give a shit. Believe me, I've talked to Tyson off the air. I don't know if Tyson cares about. He's just like what anybody thinks. He's a killer,
he's
man.
His own guy.
So
sure.
I'm glad that you're back and seemingly healthy. I don't know. I think your coach's words about you, not just in recent memory, but since you got there, I mean, even since before your first game, I don't know if you've sort of captured that or if that's resonated with you. So, Ben, throw up the Tom Izzo quote, please. So this is sort of a mix of quotes. Half of this was right when you got to school, and the other half was in the past few months.
Okay.
This is Tom Izzo saying, quote, Malik Hall is like an OKG reference point for our program. He's our kind of guy. He is versatile, can handle the ball, shoot the three. He defends. Malik is the perfect example of who and what I want at Michigan State. Tom Izzo doesn't give like heaping praise, like
Not lightly. He doesn't do it lightly. I promise.
Poor Kalen Lucas. It took him like 3 years to say something nice. You're in such like a rare category of a guy that you must be doing a lot of stuff right for Tom Izzo to say that stuff. Like even guys that he may think that he's so careful about doling out praise. What does it mean to you to have Tom Izzo say stuff like that?
It means a lot, obviously. With the kind of guy that coaches and just who he is in general, like it means a lot for someone to say that about you, and it like gives me a little credit, but more credit to like my mom and my family for doing a great job making sure I stayed like the same kind of person through all this time. So really, it's credit to them.
I mean, Tom Izzo liking you, like as in terms of, I have no complaints about his work ethic. I mean, his standards are so high. I just think it's almost impossible to meet him. And it was like, you're like the one of the. I can't even think of somebody. Maybe like Tum Nairn, I would say, before a little bit before you got there. But he was in that category of not as good of a player as you, but just. You're not going to hear Izzo say a bad word about him. He's basically like perfect from a character perspective. But you're on that short list of 3 or 4 guys where I can't find a bad quote about you. I actually looked. I was like, trying to find like the counterbalance. I don't know if you've seen Whiplash, but he's like Fletcher in Whiplash. He's like screaming at everyone. He's Cassius even was like catching. Malik Hall just doesn't get that. So I'm speaking to the temper. I ask every Michigan State basketball player, like on camera and off camera. Anytime there's a national blow up, which is like feels like every 10 to 18 months, 12 to 18 months, Izzo yelling at Aaron Henry, Izzo yelling at Gabe Brown, Izzo yelling at whomever. There's always this outcry. First Take had a big thing. What this is so terrible. Won't someone please think of the children? Everyone's doing that. Reverend Lovejoy's wife, Helen Lovejoy routine. Like what do you guys talk about? What do you do when that sort of hubbub is out there? When people are screaming and yelling, Tom Izzo's terrible. You can't coach that way in 2023. What do you guys do in those moments? Are you sitting there laughing at it? What's
100%.
So you're laughing at it.
100%. I mean, like, you come here, you know what you're getting. Like, you signed up for it. Every single one of us signed up for this, and coach is doing what we asked him to do. We said, we want to be in the NBA. We want to win national championship. We want to go to Final Fours. We want Big Ten championships. He's holding us accountable. We miss a coverage. We don't make the right play. He's going to let us know. He does it in a different way that most people aren't used to. But I mean, he's doing what we asked of him. And if we don't want the heat, get out the kitchen. That's really all it is to it, you know.
So you guys aren't saying like, oh yeah, you know, Stephen A's onto something there. Like he really is mean. It's kind of like a whatever. Because it's always like this. Oh, it's this abusive situation. Like it's coming at this angle of like, you know, someone please help the poor Michigan State basketball players. And then it doesn't matter how many guys come out, Draymond Green, former players, current players, Aaron Henry, who was the source of the scoring in one of these controversies, quote unquote, was like, he's good, like, whatever, no problem. Yeah. I can't find one guy. I even talked to a guy that off the record who transferred, who didn't even love everything about Michigan State. He liked Izzo. Even he was like, it's no big deal. I can't find anybody. But the media seems to care a lot.
Because, I mean, like, when you grow up in this basketball culture, like, a lot of people grow up with your parents as like your coaches, like when you're younger. So for me, my dad coached me when I was younger, so there wasn't a thing that I like didn't catch, you know what I mean? So when I come to coach, it's like the same thing, you know? So you know exactly what to expect, you know what you're getting into. None of us, like, we're not going to sit here and complain about it. Like, he's going to eventually get us to where we want to go. So.
I mean, you like, you're on the Tom Izzo honor roll, so you may be literally the worst person in the program that asked it. I got to find someone that like he yelled at more. Like, you're the worst person to ask this question. But what was like the angriest he ever was at you on the court? Was there one like what really infuriates him? Is it not boxing out? Is it not missing a switch? Like, what is there like a major thing that he really gnawed at you in particular over?
There's not one that I can remember, like particularly like in front of all the others. Most of the times, it'll probably be like something like a close game, and I missed like a help side, or like I didn't rotate to do something like that. That's probably where I got yelled at the most. But like nothing. There's really, quite honestly, there's never been too crazy where I'm like wow, like he really. There's none of that. So
not for you. Maybe like I said, you're the worst
for some other people it might feel like that.
I don't see him yell at you that much. It's like I don't know if that's even happened. But and that's exactly what happened with Gabe Brown. I'm pretty sure it was like a missed switch or something.
It was me and Gabe.
Me and Gabe
you were the other UCLA game.
I didn't. Yeah, I knew it was a UCLA game.
I think they ran. I think it was a ball screen with their point guard. But I was playing the four back then. But like it was always weird because like sometimes I'll switch in practice, and even when I play the four, because it's like it's just easier, and especially late game. I think it was late game. It was end of the half. There was probably a couple seconds left. Everything we're switching anyways. So it was probably me and Gabe, and I think they had like a ball screen or a handoff, and we're just supposed to switch it because it's late shot clock. You don't want to shot up, and he hit the shot, and then he went out there. Luckily, I saw him kind of get mad, and I kind of like I did my like little fast trot to the tunnel, and then like after he got game, and I didn't even see it had happened till after the game.
Oh, you didn't even catch it?
No, like I don't think anybody on our team really like saw it, like where it was like. Did you just see it? Like, no, it was just like we went to the rest of the game, and then like we looked online and we were like, oh, I didn't even know that happened. Like,
oh man, like I mean, I saw it happen live from TV, and I'll tell you, like the pearls clutched in the putty, man. People were just so offended by this exchange, and all the Michigan State people are like tweeting out like, "Oh, that's Michigan State." Like, there we go.
There it is.
There's not a single Spartan anywhere, fan, former player, whatever, that's like, "Oh my God." Like, Tom.
I feel like if you watch us for more than one season and you like watch our program, like after you'll be like, "Oh, that's just normal."
Well, he's been doing it for a quarter century.
Yeah, I know. That's why you think it would catch on by now.
You need to be in the program to know better. Like, come on, ESPN. Although that's, whatever. I'm not even going to go there. But I totally forgot. But I remember now the clip. Like, you were the other dude in the switch. But so did Game come in and was like, fuck coach? And you're like, what's going on? What was, because you were in the locker. You shuffled off. He comes in. What was the exchange?
I'm trying to remember. I think so. Because it was at Purdue. Purdue has this like long, like it's just like a giant circle at the bottom of the arena, and we were like off to the right. So like when you come out of the floor, you have to make another right to go back around. And I think I was already like down in the hallway by the time, but I could hear like them coming down the hallway. It was like that, but it wasn't like I don't think Gabe didn't. From what I remember, Gabe didn't come any type of way into the locker room or anything. It was just like normal. Like, you know, coach yelled at me, like, he might have been upset, or he might have been like, nah, like that was Malik's fault or something. But like, I didn't hear it, or I didn't see any of it.
Whose fault was it? Was it Gabe's?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I'm pretty sure I called switch, but I'm not gonna put that on Gabe. We're too far removed for that now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know the question will be out there. So it'll be forensically investigated.
Yeah, somebody know by the end of.
Ant Wright's gonna do a whole breakdown, splicing in clips of this. You know, that's his business, and he does a great job with that stuff. But so just finishing on Izzo, we've talked a lot about, you know, the coach and the, you know, temper and how you don't care, and no one seems to care about that stuff, and it's overblown. Just take the sort of coaching element out of it. Tom Izzo, the man, sort of the leadership figure in your life. I mean, I'm not going to, you know, say father figure, but other players have said that.
Yeah.
What is Tom Izzo, the man, to you? Like, what does he mean to you?
He's just a great person. Like, for me, I'm really, like, I just love being around people who are genuine. And I think he's one of probably the most genuine people I've ever come in contact with. Just because, like, when he looks after like you and you come onto his team, like, he really cares for you. Whether it be you going through something medically, you could be going through something family wise, you could be going through your girlfriend. Like, if you called him and you were like, hey coach, like, can you talk to me for a minute? Like, if you ask to talk to him on the phone, he'll get up and drive to you and like come pick you up. He's like that kind of person. So it's just, you don't come by that a lot. And that's something that's needed for a lot of people. So
he's a special guy. Your mom seemed to really like him in the all access piece you did, but that was a couple years ago. I don't know, maybe she doesn't like him anymore. But
we have a lot of love for Coach Iz in my house, just because he's helped us with a lot of stuff, you know, just family wise. Like, when I'm going through some stuff with my dad, like, my mom and him will talk about it and like just make sure I'm okay. And even like some of the other coaches on the coaching staff, you know, just little things like that. He does a lot to make sure that not only his players but their family are, you know, in the right spot and making sure that they're okay.
Do you buy the theory that he's going to retire with Steven? And, you know, when Steven departs and graduates, that's one of the popular. I mean, it's not a report, but it's a theory.
I don't know.
You think he's got some steam left?
He definitely has steam left. I think, like, realistically, like, I don't want to put this on Coach, but Coach would have to die in his sleep to not get up and like go do basketball or something, I feel like. And like, that's a bad thing to say, but I feel like that's really like I feel like his mind just works so well, like basketball wise. I feel like it would be really hard to just like shut it off and like, but I could see it happening, but I don't really know, honestly.
Hey, I think he's in the Roy Williams camp. You know, Roy was to the point of retiring, so not quite to the extent, but he's in the Roy Williams camp of, I think he's disenchanted by the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff, and he's very open about it. Mm-hmm. So I think whatever time he was going to retire, I think that may have moved it up like a year or two, whether it was 10 years, now it's 8, or 2 years, now it's 1. Like, it got moved up a little bit, is my opinion. That's just, he hasn't told me that.
I feel like maybe, not like as far as him retiring getting moved up, but I feel like kind of what you were saying, like on the scale, I feel like it definitely got moved up a little bit for sure. I don't know when, but I feel like it probably got moved up just like because Coach been through a lot. Like he's been here for a long time. He's been through a lot of stuff here, and then like you got COVID on top of that, and like at the level that he has our program at, like that's a hard thing to maintain for a very long time. So.
He seems to really wear it too. like his criticism the criticism he receives, especially, I'm trying to remember where you were at with like the Nassar timeline in terms of like when that stuff came out.
So I didn't know anything. I don't want to say I didn't know anything about Nassar, but I knew
neither did Tom Izzo.
I knew a little bit about it until I got here, and then I learned more. But I didn't get here until like years after it, and I just hear about it through like
right. I mean, I knew your timeline in terms of like when he was committing the crimes, but the fallout is what I'm talking about. Where ESPN was like putting him and Mark D'Antonio up there. I think it was like just before you got there.
I think it was too. I feel like I want to say because.
Then look up the Sparty Secrets, like the Sparty. It was literally called, I think, Spartan Secrets or Sparty Secrets ESPN article from Paul Levine and Dan Murphy. Look up when that timeline was, because
it was 2017 or 2018.
It was right in there. Yeah,
it was like right before I got here, though. I know that.
he wears that though. Like he wears that criticism a lot, and it let out in some of his press conferences. But it's the same thing, people talking about the yelling at Aaron Henry stuff. Like he's kind of defensive. He really takes his stuff seriously.
He does.
He takes things personally, as it says. But so anyway, we'll transition to this, and Ben, you can jump in. I'm just curious what that timeline was. We can look after too. The Kansas State game, I got to get to it. I kind of buried it. I debated. I can't open with it. You returning on this awesome team was sort of the lead. The Kansas State game, I'm trying to put it in proper context because I could make the argument based on how the field dropped that it was one of the, like from a fan perspective, most hurtful losses or whatever. Yeah. Just because even if you didn't love this team, I happen to like the team more than most. And, I told Tyson and AJ that. The field was such that you could have won the whole thing or gotten damn close anyway.
100%.
There was no Anthony Davis, Kentucky.
100%.
So when you look at the field and what lay before you, I would argue that made it maybe not worse, but more painful.
I think it made it more painful for sure, just because, like, credit to all the teams that made it that far and went farther than we did, because it's a hard thing to do. But definitely, I think, like, when you look at it on paper, like, I feel like we matched up as, like, the best team when it came down to it in the end. It was unfortunate for sure. That definitely was hurtful, but, like, I think we definitely matched up as, like, one of the best, no matter who was in there.
I would have picked you the whole way through until UConn, honestly. UConn, I mean, look around.
They were a great team. They were a great team.
I think they were better than Michigan State.
I've seen it. Like, they've slowly been building, because when we played, what was that? That was that would have been 2 years ago now that we played them in the Bahamas.
That was neutral site. That was the Atlantis one, right?
Yeah, I've seen them slowly, like, kind of building up. So it's crazy that they won this year, but, like, I kind of saw it coming from the last couple of years. They've been a great team.
They were a weird team. They were like 15-2, and then they lost
they
6.
Off.
Yeah,
they were like 6 of the 7, and
they were
then
like terrible for like a month. They looked like they were going to miss the tournament, and they got hot like 14 or 15 again.
Crazy.
So, but I honestly think I would have picked them to beat Michigan State had it gotten to that point, which I think would have been the national championship game.
Yeah,
I think the way the bracket fell.
They were on the other side.
Yeah, they were on the opposite side. But looking at it, I would have picked you through, and you were, overtime lost by one basket. You can't really get much closer than an overtime lost by one basket. Like, Ben, show the highlight package. Just bring us back to that Kansas State game, widely considered the best game of the entire tournament. Ben, let's run that.
Before Michigan State was set. On the rim line goes Hogard, and he's fouled, and a primal scream. The Sparty run now, covering 3.5 minutes. Noel, hot pass, runs it down, puts it up, late clock. Are you kidding? Okay. This is a familiar lineup for Tom Izzo, his small lineup. Little fadeaway from Noel, he's cooking of their three-pointers. Hogard gets to the paint. Hogard hangs. No, the follow by Hall, and one. Walker drives it with 5 on the clock. Walker scores! We're tied at 82. Kansas State can take the lead here. Then a wild one. Great pass. Gasson! This is Hogard now with Carter on him. Almost falls. And he lays it in! Count the basket and one! Jerome Tang sets it up. Going for the lob! Here's Hauser. Gives it up. Clock ticks. Hall finding Walker. Walker already stripped by Noel. Ball is loose. Noel comes out of the pack. Noel dribbles, and he lays it in. Count the basket, and Kansas State wins it.
I mean, for pure historical record, we included that last part. I wish Ben had just skipped it and I could hallucinate and be hypnotized into thinking it ended differently. Just take me into the atmosphere there, not just the arena and the environment and that iconic location, but just on the floor. The game from my couch seemed as tense,
electric.
That's
all I could say. Like, that was by far the best game of basketball I think I've ever played in my life. Like, even like talking like pickup, like talking smack, like with your homeboys at the park. Like, it was better than times like that. Like, that was one of those games where I'll probably remember that for the rest of my life and like remember how I felt during it was just so crazy because it was so loud. Like there were so many faces. Your families are there. Like we're going into overtime. Like two great teams. Best game of the tournament, in my opinion. Like by far. like
everybody said that.
But it was a crazy experience, definitely for me at least.
It was there's no break really. Like if it's like you guys would go up like 2 to 4 points, and it's like, oh shit, like one stop, one score, like we're gonna kind of get control, and then they would answer, and then they'd pull up 4, and it's like, oh shit,
it was like that the whole game, flopping back and forth. That's why it felt so crazy. I think
there was one moment like in the sequence where I think they went up like 7, 8, or 9 or something like that for like a minute, and then it went right back down to that 2 to 4. Yeah. And there, at no point did I feel like, man, if my life depended on picking the winner of this game, I feel confident. Yeah, I had no idea who was going to win.
You couldn't be confident in either team because it really honestly was like that kind of game where it was just...
And that's rare. It's rare to have no idea. Even if it's like 55-45, you watch a game, it's like, man, this team looks a little quicker, looks a little more dialed in, or they're shooting, or they're hot, or whatever. Like, I had no idea what to make of that game in real time. So was there, like you said, it was intense. Was there like kind of a trash talking element there? Was it just more the competitive side? What was that about?
For me at least, I don't think there was much trash talking. There was maybe like 1 or 2 things where like you bump into somebody, like they give you a look and you give them a look, and then it's like, okay. But at least from what I know, there wasn't really much with us. There probably might have been with the guards because Tyson and AJ love to talk. The other guy's a New York guy, obviously. So I mean, there might have been a little there back and forth in between them, but I can't say for sure. I honestly really don't. I think it was just like everybody was playing a high level of basketball, and everybody wanted the same thing. We all had a goal of getting to the national championship, and it kind of just poured out into the game, really.
When I said to you earlier, I've always had your back, but I haven't often needed to. Hogard, not that he needs my help, but I've actually needed to defend him in terms of like the criticism he's received, you know, for the body language issues. And even Tom Izzo's mentioned his body language.
He gets it a lot for sure.
Constant. And we talked about that when he was on the show. I was so bummed, aside for the obvious reasons that we lost and all, you know, that comes with that. What an incredible game that AJ Hogard had. That was one of the best tournament performances in the history of one of the best programs in the country. And to come in a losing effort, I just felt bad for him. But like, what did you make of what he showed out in that game? That was otherworldly from him. I
think really, like, I feel like I see that a lot. And I feel like anytime we step on the floor, like I feel that about all my teammates though. I see their best games whenever we step out on the court. Like I'm looking at my teammates, I'm not thinking like, oh, he's gonna be tripping tonight. Like I'm looking like that person down at the other end is not matching up with you. So like you can have a great game. And like to be honest, I was really happy for him that he got to do it. Last time we played in the Garden, he played really well too. So 2 times in a row, I kind of had a feeling that he was going to play well just based off of last time when he played well. So I was really happy for him though.
Do you buy Tyson rolled his eyes so hard he gave himself a concussion, I think. Like, do you buy the bad attitude, like, you know, lazy, bad body language, doesn't listen to coach stuff about AJ Hogard? Like, what do the fans who say that get wrong in your mind?
I think it's easy to kind of just look and be able to say that about him because I'd be lying to say that he doesn't show that stuff and he doesn't do that stuff sometimes. But like any of us, like you remember when you were 20-something, like you're still growing up, you're still learning a lot of stuff. Like you're still, and I think a lot of that we've kind of seen with him, like even just through the years, like the freshman year AJ that I met and the AJ that I know now are 2 completely different people. And it's not only just because of like him being around our team and our program and like kind of the values that we instill, but also just like him like kind of like growing up and seeing certain things and just being like I need to be more serious in certain aspects or like listen to people more. So like I think he's just done an outstanding job of not listening to all that and continuing. I had that conversation with him today about something else, that kind of the same thing, like you're on the right path. Just like keep going. So bro.
Someone's
like,
giving him shit today?
No, not about this. It was something else that like we had talked about. Like he just felt like certain things were kind of being skipped over on him, and I was like, well, if you feel like in your heart you're doing the right thing, and like you know yourself better than anyone else, so like just keep doing what you got to do, and it'll come to the light whether you're doing the right thing or not.
I wrote an article just arguing that he's one of the most misunderstood guys. Part of it is just like the facial expression he makes.
he does have some crazy facial expressions.
He looks like he just
people.
woke up. He's just kind of like, looking like he's it's just. And it's not his permanent face, but like he makes that expression, and there are people like that just like that's not really even reflective of how they are.
Yeah, I think with him it's kind of misunderstood a lot because like sometimes he can look like that and he's not feeling like that, and then someone will like say like, oh, that's how he is, and then they'll try and treat him that way, and then that's where it can become like why are you? And then he'll give you the face for a reason. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I think a lot of times what's really misunderstood with him is like he's like really nice and really genuine person. Like he's one of my closest friends on the team in life. To be honest, like he just like he'll make sure I'm okay. Like if my family's going through something, like he'll text me separate and be like, hey, like checking on you, making sure you're good. Like he's one of those genuine people that you want around.
I loved him, and the best argument for him being misunderstood. There was someone on Twitter, Twitter's a very nice place, as we all know. But when Hogard was on the show, someone commented and said on one of our clips saying, man, A.J. Hogard looks like he can't wait to get out of there because he's doing his Hogard face. He's got the Hogard face. Mm-hmm. But I replied, and it was the truth. I said, I get what you're saying, but he stayed here for almost like an hour after the show, hanging out, talking.
Like chilling,
like he was not, because some guests, it's not, I don't take it personally, like especially you guys coming far away from East Lansing. Most people, if they're coming from a long distance, do tear right out of here.
Like you want to get back.
He hung out for like an hour, and we were sitting there talking about like NIL and stuff like that. Like so,
no, like he's like that's why I think it's like completely misunderstood because like if you have. I think a lot of people have brief interactions with someone and then make an assumption about that, like, oh, like I might have had a brief interaction with him where he wasn't completely polite or something, and it'll be like, oh, like he's just like that. But like if you sit and have a conversation with him like on a respectful, like same level type of thing, like he's completely like cool. Like you could sit there and have a conversation with him for a long time.
I loved him, man. I thought he was misunderstood before I met him and talked to him, on and off camera. Great guy, and really, I mean, definition of misunderstood. I was so happy for him in that game, and even though the outcome didn't go the way we wanted. Yeah. The Noel scouting report, I did a show with the Kansas State Reporter 2 days before the game. Like, everybody knew that was the focal point.
Yeah.
I was, I'll admit, surprised that we allowed him, or that it happened, however you want to phrase it, we allowed him to set an NCAA tournament record for assists, and there was some lobs. We saw one of them in the highlight package. Mm-hmm. I mean, we knew going in this guy was really good. I assume that guy was prominent in your scouting report. Like, why did that happen? Like, why was he, allowed, for lack of a better term? Like, what did you guys not do that you needed to do?
I think, so with the player like him, is kind of, not to compare it to Steph Curry because they're two completely separate different players, but like when you have someone who can shoot the ball really well and is really fast, and you kind of couple that with someone who can pass the ball and they're the point guard position, like that's really hard to defend against just because. So if we want to stop him from shooting the long threes that he was shooting, I'm pretty sure we went over, and then we had our big men get up, and when we did that, it left other things open. So if he came off, I think we eventually changed it to like maybe coming down a little bit, like we weren't all the way hedged up, or we were like a soft hedge or something. And then that's when he started to like come off, and because our big man's not all the way up and our guard is chasing over, it allows him like that like 2 to 3 second window where he can make those reads that elite players make, that like, oh, this dude's kind of helping in to help with this rotation or whatever, so like I can skip it over there. And I think it really was just kind of just him like reading our scout and then playing off of it and making great decisions, because it was either he passed the ball and we have to let other people make shots and it's not as much in his hands, which was probably the best idea, or you let him do what he does and try and score like 50. It was frustrating.
It was like 20 and 19. I know 19
it was something
record.
Ridiculous.
So your sort of focal point in sort of the closing moments of this game, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. My receipts are out there. I thought it was absurd that you were receiving criticism for the out of bounds play?
Oh, I got smashed for a lot of that game. For a lot of it.
Oh, like from on social media stuff?
From that last game, I got a lot of stuff for it.
Well, the free throw, but you also had a putback.
Yeah.
You had a critical rebound and putback where if that doesn't happen, none of this bad stuff even ends up happening.
I think a lot of it's is really just like people who don't understand like basketball. Like if you don't really like watch a lot of basketball, like to pick up on coverages and like box outs and like little like key things in the game, like you either have to have played or you have to have watched or like been a part of it for a very long time. And I think like a lot of that stuff, like the out of bounds call, like it was really like 50-50 for me because I wanted to go get it, but then I was like, oh, like I don't know if AJ touched it because I like maybe he didn't touch it. It was just an air ball, but maybe he did touch it. And then it was like an in between. It was like a really fast call for me. So
I mean,
I didn't make the right decision. So like
I can only speak for myself. I'm sitting on the couch, which is a little different from your perspective. But in real time, I was like, "Don't touch it," because I thought it was an air ball.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's why, like, because when it came off, I remember like specifically because I'm on this baseline and I'm coming from like if you were under the hoop, I would be coming from the left side of the court. And I think I was coming from the left side of the court, and he shot it, and I looked over, and I see kind of AJ there, and he was like, because I feel like he already knew they were gonna try and call it, and he was like I feel like he was shaking his head or something. I just like quick glanced, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna leave it, but.
I mean, and I'm pretty sure that was like they reviewed it and it was just not enough to overturn. It wasn't like a definitive even after the fact. Ben, can you run the plays? Like we're just gluttons for punishment over here, just so people can see what we're talking about. That ball was not in the air as long as people think. It was a very quick bang decision. I think people forget that. Let's roll that.
Hogarth's going to pick him up. 8 to shoot, long three, missed it. Was it deflected is the key. Did Hogarth get a hand on it? And the answer is yes from Jeb Hartness, the official. Back to the monitor they go. There's the pass, and it is Masood. And Masood hits a huge shot. A big two. 96-93.
It was really, I'm not gonna lie to you, like some of the hate I got at the end I was really upset about, just because like watching that play, you're gonna tell me that like you knew that ball was tipped. Like no, I feel like you can't, like nobody can say that, like especially just how quickly it happened. And then some of like the later stuff, like that shot after, like some people were like, oh, you allowed him to score the basket, but like me, I just let it go.
But you're aware, you were cognizant of the criticism.
No, yeah, I'm always like I feel like a lot of people say not to look at it because like it gets you, like it can throw you off your game or like whatever. But like I mean, I love to look at it. Like I feel like it's interesting. Like this is how you perceived something that I was doing. Like you perceived it this way. You weren't in the situation, so how can you tell me I should have done something in a certain situation? You know what I mean?
Well, there were two reasons why I took particular exception to it, because there are physical errors and people can disagree about stuff.
Yeah.
But that specific play was a little different for two reasons. One, and the lesser of the two reasons, the context of you and your injury history this past year in particular, battling to get back on the court. It looked like you might not get back on the court at all. Rusty coming in, playing your ass off. I think that matters in the way anything is interpreted. Just the fact that you're there speaks to your work ethic and how much you care, which leads me to the second bigger point. There was not just criticism of the play, specifically criticism of your effort. I mean, I don't know if you saw Rico Beard on 97.1 with Valeni said that you didn't give enough effort on that play. Like specifically the term effort was used, that Malik Hall didn't give the effort on that out of bounds play. I don't know how anybody can watch that play. You can say, first of all, I disagree that it was a mistake. In real time, I was like, back off. Like, who knows? It's a judgment call. But I know 1,000% sure it's on an effort play. You're making a split-second decision. Like, the effort criticism is what really got me mad. And I was going off, like, in your defense, like, you guys talking about this guy's effort. You know what the hell you're talking about. This guy bent over backwards to get back on the court in the first place. He's the biggest tryhard, and I mean in a good way, guy in the whole team. So like, did that particular component of it, I don't know if you saw or heard any of that stuff. The effort thing to me is worse than, oh, what an idiot.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that one digs a little deeper just because I feel like to go after someone's effort, like especially after, like you just said, like after everything that I went through the season, like it hurts a little more. But like I said, it's just how he perceived the game. Like he didn't think I tried hard enough. He doesn't know how I felt like when I was going. Like so, I can't take it as like a dig on me to say, I guess.
Well, I mean, the unintentional comedy of Rico Beard commenting on somebody's lack of work ethic is its own joke and does not require a punchline beyond the recitation of what I just said. But he was not the only one that was like, oh, like he's got to try harder on that play. To me, that was absurd. Yeah. The other sort of commentary, and this was with you and Hauser and sort of the team as a collective, the coaching staff, that last possession. I mean, we played it. It was tragically the end of that. I think everyone agrees, like, you got to get a shot off. That's not controversial. Like, what happened there? Because this whole perception of another Rico comment, the moment was too big for you guys. I would argue you forced overtime in the first place. That was the best game of the tournament. If the game was too big, the moment was too big, you just would have gotten blown out.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been there.
You had to be... You had to be a big boy team and ready to play to even be in that situation and trade haymakers. What happened there at the end?
I think it was really a combination of stuff. Me, I hadn't shot well the whole postseason. So like in my head, when I caught the ball, I was open, but I felt like I wasn't open enough to where I would have liked to get a shot off. That would have been a perfect shot. And also in my mind, I got the ball and I feel like there was still at least like 5+ seconds left, which is a lot. So I looked over and I saw Tyson and I'm like, Tyson looks like decently open. Like, let me get him the ball. He's done this numerous times. So in my head, that's where I was at. Like, I feel like me, Tyson, and Joey all could have took a shot on that play, and it could have been we weren't big enough for the moment, or just we made the wrong decision. Like,
Tyson was big enough to force overtime on the drive. I mean, why is it suddenly too big for him now? It wasn't too big for him 7 minutes ago.
That's the funny part. Like, we all played part in getting to overtime and getting to that position. So it's like, I feel like too big could be what you call it, or it could just be like, hey, it's done.
It's definitely not an effort thing, though. That to me was the most offensive thing that was out there. And I mean, that wasn't the majority opinion, but you saw the criticism. You said that stuff doesn't bother you, though. Yeah. I mean, maybe the effort thing nodded you a little bit, but I mean, I don't know if it's a motivation thing. I mean, Tyson Walker wants to kill people. He remembers every slight. I mean, he was like naming names of like bloggers that mentioned him 3 years ago. I mean, that guy's got a list.
No, I think it just depends on the type of athlete. Like, some of the things that you receive are definitely things that could like sway your mental health for sure. But I think it depends on kind of where you're at in your mental health as far as like knowing how to handle those things and go about them in the correct way.
So are people like tagging you too, or?
Oh, I get tagged. I get like DMs.
See, that's
just like the regular stuff with my name on Twitter. Like there's a lot of different stuff.
That's crossing the line. Like, if you want to talk about the game, even if you're wrong and maybe even offensively wrong, whatever, but like to seek out one thing if you're in the NBA, but like a college kid, I think that's.
I think it's became so much more just because like betting too, like all the growth in betting that's definitely increased a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I lost a big one on you that game, but I didn't yell at you. I don't know. I mean, come on, there's
there's different ways to deal with it. I'm not saying
there's no
saying
excuse,
it's right,
Billy.
but like
I don't know. I feel like I was defending you guys all year. The only criticism I really had all year, and I'll go to the grave, and we'll talk about that for 5 seconds at the end, but the portal thing, I think your coach got wrong, and I know Tyson and AJ disagreed with me, and I'm sure you will too. We'll get there in a second, but I just that was my only gripe with this team. This how it was run in the group. I loved the roster. I thought you guys played your asses off. Your game in particular at Chrysler, like your individual performance, I mean, was unbelievable. I wanted more for this team. Finishing here before we get to our speed round, your take on that Kansas State game as you leave it. It was your last sort of time on the court before this season coming up. Is it sad? Is it piss you off? Like, I'm gonna get in the gym. Like, how is it sort of compartmentalized emotionally?
I think it's a little bit of each. I wish I could have performed better. So like, get a little pissed off about that because I want to be better for myself. And then also like just sad that it ended that way. I feel like as a team, we kind of deserve more. I feel like as a university, like it would have been cool to be a part of a group that stood for something big after what we went through. So like I feel like there's a lot of different ways that I kind of take it, but like really, I think the overall is just like excited. Like that's the stepping stone we left off on, you know. And we're coming into the new year with a lot of pieces returning and a lot of talented young guys coming in. So
it's just
I take it as a high.
I mean, the game was awesome. It's like it's a bummer either team had to lose. Like that effort, the way you guys just brought it emotionally and the intensity of the game and performed, and big shot after big shot, and big stop after big stop. I mean, almost anybody, maybe anybody else that day, but Kansas State, you guys win. I mean, we saw, I'm not going to get you in trouble, but I'm sorry, I saw Purdue lie down. Like I saw Arizona lie down. They took a punch and they lied down. You guys were just two heavyweights knocking each other out, and like no one backed off, and it was just eventually the clock ran out and someone had to lose. Yeah. But you guys were just going back and forth, and it's such an awesome game. It's one of those where similar to Wisconsin, Michigan State in 2011 with the Big Ten inaugural football championship game, where it's like, what a bummer someone had to lose. They were just back and forth, and that was tough.
One of those games.
It'll haunt me, but you guys can hopefully redeem that. We'll see. Yeah. I love this group coming in, man. This is going to be exciting. So,
I'm
Ben,
very excited.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of these guys coming in. Ben, let's get to our speed round. And Malik, he drove a long way. We got to get him out of here pretty soon. So let's run speed round, Malik. So I wanted to do this one. I'm going to get in trouble because anytime I say his name, everyone on Twitter now says, who? I don't know that guy. I'm going there. I don't care. It's my show. Keon Coleman, current Florida State football player, which that sucks. I was a huge fan of his.
Crazy to say.
He was that Kentucky game that we had some of your highlights on. He was sitting in that chair watching it with me right before our show. We delayed. That show went off, Ben, at like 11? It was like the latest show we've ever had. Because he and I wanted to watch the Kentucky game, and that went in the overtime.
And then,
well, I mean, so I was bummed that he left, but he said he really had a close bond, and we talked about it on the show with both teams, the football team and the basketball team. He loved you guys. The way he was locked in on the screen watching every possession of that Kentucky game, it was like his life depended on it. What was he like on the basketball side? What was he like as a guy, as a teammate? Did you like having him there? I know he wasn't there with you this past year, but the year before.
Just energy. Like he was. Like he had so much energy. He was like youthful, I'd say. Like he was super happy all the time. Like I feel like he was never really negative. Like he'd come in like wearing Crocs, trying to get up shots and dunk a basketball and sweat. Like, bro, you could go downstairs and like change and then come back up. Like he just I don't know. I felt like he just had so much energy and so much life to him that kind of like everybody just liked him being around. Plus he was funny on top of that. It makes it easy to like him.
Yeah, I liked him a lot too. Very interesting guy. Like he's sort of a one of one. I never really met. He's very blunt, and I'm like, is he mad at me? But okay, no, he's not mad at me. It's just kind of like
it's like a roller coaster with him sometimes.
There's a feeling out period. Yeah. At one point, he was just like what time do I gotta get out of here? I was like, you can stay as long as you want, man. Like it's sort of guest driven, but like the show goes to release an hour typically. So I'm like, I thought he was trying to leave. He's like, nah, you're cool. And we ended up like talking similar to AJ, not quite as long, but. Yeah, I couldn't get a read on it, but I liked him. Even though I'm not allowed to mention him. Michigan State people tell me. The freshman class coming in. I mean, one of the most heralded, I believe, by most reports, the number 2 class in the country. It's an impressive group. I think Jeremy Fears has sort of taken on the most hype in terms of like the Twitter, social media space. Xavier Booker, obviously. Like, what do you make of this group? Have you met any of these guys? Have you looked at their games? Like, what's sort of
met all of them? I hosted Xavier on his visit here. My roommate at the time, Davis, hosted Cohen on his visit. Garrett came to my apartment when he was here. Jeremy, I know because he's from Illinois. So like I've gotten to know all of them pretty well, and I'm really excited. I think they have a lot of talent. I think if they stick together and they make it kind of through their first year and of the filling out process, and not even say the first year, like as long as we can get them to a point where they understand how the program works and like the cultures and them buying in within the first couple of months, I think the sky's the limit for them. Like they really have a base to do some outstanding things here.
I'm curious to see how the rotation shakes out. We'll get to one of those pieces in a second, but it's almost like, I mean, Graham Couch said, it's like, you almost have like too many good players, which I'll take that problem all day.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fascinating because there's so many minutes. There's going to be like really talented good players. that don't play a ton. I mean, that's typically there's one or two on Michigan State. There'll be like 3 or 4 guys that don't play much that are going to be like stars at some point in their careers.
100%. I think that's what Coach does a good job of, though. Like, everybody kind of like matures at different times. Like, you know, the light switch flips for everybody at different points in their career. And I think like just as far as like growing up and elevating your game, like Coach does a really good job of that, like throughout the years.
And we've seen like Draymond Green, Denzel Valentine, like guys that were like okay as freshmen, like barely rotational pieces, ended up being. Yeah, Denzel was the best player in the country, and then Buddy Hield, who was one award winning the other, and Draymond was top 5 in all those voting too. So yeah, we've seen that development. I'm fascinated to see like that first month and who plays and how the rotation shakes out.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure. I'm excited to see it too. I'm excited to have everybody in the same gym. I'm excited for our first open gym, really.
You're one of the only safe ones there. You're starting. It's like a handful of guys. Like I know how much they're going to play within 4 or 5 minutes either way. There's like 8 guys on that roster that could play 30 minutes or 2. I mean, it's fascinating to watch. Your coach, moving on, absolutely hates the transfer portal. There's, I think this is a fine concept that needs some guardrails that are not in place. It's a little bit too wild westy for my taste and seemingly your coaches as well. Just as a general NCAA matter, what do you make of the transfer portal as a player? Like, do you think this is out of control? Do you think this is totally fine? What's your take on it?
Quite honestly, to be honest with you, I never really kept up with it just because, like, I never wanted to be a portal guy, or I never wanted to, like, I feel like it would be cool to, like, be able to, like, feel different universities and, like, be able to, like, go through different experiences there. But, like, to me, I always wanted to be, like, one place. And I feel like the portal, I think it'll be interesting, especially with NIL over the next couple of years, just because there's a lot that happens in the portal that I feel like isn't talked about, and I don't know about it, so I can't say much, but I think it's definitely very interesting.
Well, like salacious stuff? You mean?
I don't think salacious stuff, but like just interesting. That's all.
All right. I mean, some of that Keon Coleman stuff out there, and I don't begrudge the kid, by the way. I mean, the courts have already said like they're staying out of it. The NCAA since they have it, so I'm like a big get your money guy. Like I don't, as long as you're not breaking any laws, which they're not.
Yeah.
Bylaws they are, but not laws. NCAA bylaws, but I mean those have been loosely enforced. But I'm pro like player. I think if your coach leaves, you should be able to go or whatever. I agree a little bit with your coach on you should not be fielding offers, and I'm not going to name names, but fielding offers from 4 different schools to try to get you to leave. I don't think that was ever the intent.
No, for sure.
It's a little bit out of control in my opinion.
Yeah.
Playing through tragedy. Obviously, I would argue the darkest day in Michigan State history from a human perspective, the shooting up there this year and hit everyone differently, but in no ways well. I think people really took that one understandably hard. You guys end up going to Chrysler. We talked about it briefly. You had an incredible game individually, and it was honestly a great game until the last 6-7 minutes, and Michigan pulled away. But that first week after, you're on the court. Some thought you may not even play. What was that like for you just getting through that?
I think it was just weird. Like there was a lot of emotions, not just by us players, but like coaching staff, like people on campus, just everyone that would be impacted by our campus going through something like that. And I think as players, it was just a little weird because like some of our kids had classes in those buildings. Like I went to a class in that building. Like those could have been one of our friends. That could have been somebody's sister. Like that could have. And I feel like it's just so weird because like for it to feel like that close and then to hop back out there and play basketball, for me it was a little like the first like 2 days we started back after, it was a little weird for me just because I felt like I shouldn't be there. Because like obviously when something like that happens, you just kind of look at everything like big picture, like this, that, like, let me take the time to get myself correct and like 100%. But I mean, I think it was crazy for me personally, and I feel like it was something that was exciting though. Like when we had the opportunity to play, when the game time came, like it was like dang, like we got a chance to like maybe give somebody a break. Like we know you're hurting. We know you're going through things. We know you're emotional. Like here's a 2-hour break. Like you could just tune in and watch us and let all the other stuff sit by the side. That's how I viewed it, and that's how I kind of wanted to go into the game, and that's how I started the game. So
I thought Michigan did a great job with their whole routine before the game, the tribute and
being a host for sure, 100%. They did a great job.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, I was really, kind of proud of them, and that was just a cool moment. 2 left, and then we'll get you out of here. Jaden Akins, he's coming back, right? I mean, come on. Break the news on his behalf, right?
So I actually haven't even heard about it yet, but I talked to him maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, and I asked him how he was doing. He's working out a lot, so he's one of the people. I said it when he first got here, not because he went to the same school as me. He went to Sunrise. He transferred there, and I take a lot of pride in him going there because like it showed a lot about his character and like everything that he's been through and like kind of just how he's continued to build his game to the stage that he's at. I think he's gonna be an all-star one day, to be honest.
I love his game. He's a fearless guy. I mean, he had a shot at that Chrysler game, a 3.
Yeah.
It just lipped out. It was the best miss we've seen all year. And I love that it was like a possession or 2 later, got the ball in the same spot, just drilled, no hesitation.
Yeah, no hesitation.
He cuts it loose.
He's got this. Him and Tyson have like the same mindset where it's like I'm gonna keep shooting till it go in. Like, and one of these times it's gonna go in. Like, so I admire that about both of them, and I think he's outstanding. Not just basketball player, but young man.
The sort of rumor or reporting or whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Ant Wright is big on this. That Jaden Akins' decision to return to Michigan State or not was dependent on Tyson Walker, because if Tyson Walker returned, Jaden Akins won't be able to be a primary ball handler, and that's what NBA scouts want to see. Do you buy that Akins needs to get these ball handling reps that he won't get with Tyson there, and that's influencing his decision? Do you think that's a bunch of hogwash? Is there some meat on the bone?
I mean, there could be meat on the bone. I'm not in his head, so I don't know exactly what he's thinking. But one thing I do know is that if you're a good basketball player, like, you'll get found. Like, somebody's going to find you. Your talent's not going to go to waste. And somebody told me that when I was younger, and I just feel like even if Jaden came back, like, we won a national championship, you can't turn him away. Like, what are you going to do? Be like, oh, we didn't see you running those with your handle as much. But, like, hey, you shot 40% from the 3, you played defense, and averaged however many points, and you won a national championship. You're a winning guy. Like, how can you not take that? You know what I mean? And he's young. So, like, in my opinion, that shouldn't matter, because if you're a good player and you do the right things, like, you're gonna get your shot. So,
I mean, another guy that raises the whole ceiling of your team. I think you could win the whole thing without him, but if he's back, that team gets even better.
Yeah.
Finishing here, just briefly, the aircraft carrier game, Gonzaga.
that was
Heartbreaking loss again.
Nah.
What was that like? Is it? Are you like shooting and it's like, oh shit, I see a dolphin? Like
So,
what is just like the sight line like? What is that experience like?
The way the court was, so like I'll use it as like this is like the dock basically. So the boat was like this. So to our right was like the ocean and stuff. And so you didn't really look to your right because the court is obviously in the middle. So like everything we were more so focused on this half of the court because that's where the court was. And there was a stands in the middle anyway, so you couldn't see it. But really it was like we went out to warm-ups, and there was, I want to say it was the right wing if the hoop's in front of you. We're on the right wing. And I went and I shot a jump shot. And I looked up, and like I'm directly in the setting sun. Like the hoop is directly in the setting sun, and I'm looking and I'm like, I can't even like see. And then like it was a little windy at first, so like the wind would carry the ball. It was a unique basketball experience, but like probably one of my favorite like life experiences for sure.
It is one of those where it's like, of course you wanted to win, but just doing it. It's one of those.
It was one of those things where like walking away, like we lost, but like nobody thought we were going to be in the game with Gonzaga, but people who liked us and our team. So it was like we walked away on a good note, and it was just one of those experiences where like even losing, you can't walk away from something like that, especially around like all the veterans. Like it was much bigger than anything basketball. So
Michigan State is great, man. We get to do really cool stuff. We play in weird places.
Yes, we do.
Hangers and chips. I mean, we do all sorts of crazy stuff. Malik Hall, appreciate you, man. I know we probably ran a little long. You got a long drive back. I appreciate you, man, making your way out here. And
I appreciate you having me. Thank
I'm
you.
happy you're feeling
It's
better.
a great time. I enjoyed this.
I'm glad your career is not over like that tweet said, and that you'll be back and
Me
playing.
too.
And
I'm excited.
That's going to be a great year. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with on the court. It's going to be a really exciting, intriguing, fun year. I'd love to have you back sometime. You're welcome back anytime. Seriously,
For sure. I definitely have to come back. I enjoyed this.
I appreciate it, man. You're the iconic, definitive OKG. I mean, it's your coaches. I mean, I can't imagine there's 3 people this coach openly likes. You're one of the 3 ever. So good on you. Ben Augusta, appreciate you. Other side of the curtain there, the great and powerful Oz, Eric Williamson on his couch in his boxers by now. Our set designer, graphic designer, appreciate him as well. Malik Hall, hell of a player. Spartan Dog, OKG, all the above. This is going to be a fun year coming up. Hopefully we'll have him back soon. Spiro Avenue Show, Justin Spiro. We'll see you soon. Thanks.